When the first missile flies, the world holds its breath. But in the trading pits of London, Houston, and Singapore, they start placing bets. The true first casualty of any modern war is not Pisce's price stability. A single headline can add $20 to the price of a barrel of oil before a single tank is destroyed. But who actually controls this chaotic, trillion-dollar lifeblood of global conflict? It's not who you think. It's not just sheiks and presidents. The real control is a triple-locked systema tense, unstable alliance between the political masters, the shadow traders, and the financial engineers. And when war breaks out, this alliance doesn't break. It profits. If you think oil is just about cars and gas stations, you're missing the real war. Tell me right now, where are you watching from and what time is it? To understand the hidden hands controlling your world, hit like, share this, and subscribe. Let's dismantle the myth. We imagine oil control as a simple equation. Nation with largest reserves equals power. That's static, 20th century thinking.
The most visible,
in the fluid,
the
high-stakes
political
reality
masters.
of a war economy.
These are the nations
Control
who sit
is about
atop
leveraging
the
three
spigot.
types of power.
Think
The
Saudi
power to
Arabia
withhold,
and its
the power to
OPEC plus
redirect,
cartel
and the
allies,
power to price.
Russia and the United
These powers
States
are held by
as the
three
world's
distinct,
top producer.
often rivalrous, groups who form a de facto global committee during a crisis. First, the most visible, the political masters, the weaponizers. These are the nations who sit atop the spigot. Think Saudi Arabia and its OPEC plus cartel allies, Russia and the United States as the world's top producer. In peacetime, they compete for market share. In wartime, they wield their reserves as geopolitical crowbars. Their tool is the strategic production cut or surge. By collectively turning the valves
Conversely,
down, as
the
OPEC
US
Plus
can
has
attempt to
repeatedly
flood
done
the
since the
market
Ukraine war,
from its strategic
they
petroleum
artificially create
reserve,
scarcity,
a
driving
political
prices
tool
up to
to
fill their
curb
coffers,
prices.
regardless of the
But here's
global
the
economic
twist.
pain it
This
causes.
visible power
Conversely,
is often an
the US
illusion.
can attempt to
The
flood the
political
market from its
masters
strategic
are
petroleum
prisoners
reserve,
of their
a
own
political
infrastructure.
tool to curb prices. But here's the twist. This visible power is often an illusion. The political masters are prisoners of their own infrastructure. You can have all the oil in the world, but if you can't insure it, ship it, or find a buyer willing to navigate sanctions, your control
Meet the
is
shadow
zero.
traders,
That's
the
where the second,
circumventors.
more ruthless group
This is
steps
the
in.
murky world of
Meet the shadow
commodity
traders,
trading
the
houses.
circumventors. This is the murky world of commodity trading houses and shipping magnates, headquartered in the neutral, secretive corridors
When
of
war
Geneva,
hits
Zug,
and sanctions are
and Dubai.
imposed,
When war
these
hits
traders
and
don't
sanctions are
lose
imposed,
business, they reinvent
these traders
it.
don't lose business.
Their control
they
comes from
reinvent it.
mastering the art
Their
of the
control
dark
comes from
voyage.
mastering the art of the dark voyage. They command the shadow fleet, hundreds of aging tankers, registered to anonymous shell companies that form a ghost armada. Their job: to make forbidden oil
to
disappear
make
and
forbidden
reappear
oil
with a new
disappear
identity.
and reappear
Russian
with a
Urals
new
crude,
identity.
sanctioned and shunned, is loaded onto these ships. A risky mid-ocean ship-to-ship transfer occurs. Paperwork is forged, and the oil is laundered, reborn as Malaysian blend or unknown origin, now sellable to refineries in India, China, or even indirectly back into the global system. Firms like Vital, Glencore, Trafigura, and a swarm of newer opaque entities control this labyrinth. They don't control the oil in the ground. They control its journey and its provenance. They charge exorbitant premiums for this service, skimming billions from the sanctions risk premium. Their power is the power of global indifference, the understanding that somewhere, someone will always buy cheaper oil, no questions asked. But moving black gold is one thing. Determining its precise, moment-to-moment value is another. This is where the third and most abstract layer of control is asserted, by the financial engineers, the price makers. This group operates from skyscrapers in New York and London. They are the banks Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, the hedge funds. And the algorithms that dominate the futures markets on exchanges like the ICE, Intercontinental Exchange, and NYMEX, they rarely touch a physical barrel. They trade paper promises complex derivatives, futures contracts, and options. In a war, their power is the power of narrative and fear. A single intelligence report of a threatened pipeline analyzed by an algorithm can trigger a flash spike. They bake the geopolitical risk premium into the price before any physical disruption occurs. They create financial instruments that allow producers to lock in high prices and airlines to hedge against catastrophic spikes, taking a fat fee for managing the very volatility they help amplify. Their control is over perception itself. The real price of oil is not set in Riyadh or Moscow on any given day. It is set in the digital trading pits where fear is quantified into dollars and cents. This triple alliance is unstable, fraught with mistrust. The political masters hate the shadow traders for undermining their sanctions. The financial engineers view the shadow traders as messy operational necessities. Yet, they are codependent. A Saudi prince needs a Glencore to move his oil and a Goldman Sachs to hedge his price. This is the uneasy consortium that controls global oil during war. But to see its true, devastating effect, we must examine the ultimate case study, the 2022 energy shock. This wasn't just a price hike. It was a live demonstration of how this system weaponizes dependency, bankrupts nations, and forces the world to pick a side at the gas pump. The shockwaves revealed that the real battle wasn't just for territory, but for the very architecture of the global economy. The year 2022 was a live autopsy of the global oil system under fire. It revealed a terrifying truth. The real power doesn't lie in who pumps the oil, but in who orchestrates the shock. The Ukraine war was the trigger. But the financial and logistical explosion that followed was meticulously conducted by the triple alliance of political masters, shadow traders, and financial engineers. This wasn't a market reaction. It was a controlled detonation that reshaped the world map, creating new winners, new empires, and a terrifying blueprint for future conflicts. Let's dissect the shockwave through the three channels of control. First, the political gambit. How OPEC Plus weaponized neutrality. As Europe scrambled to replace Russian gas and oil, the obvious lifeline was the world's only spare capacity, the Gulf states led by Saudi Arabia. The West pleaded for a surge in production to stabilize prices. Riyadh, with the UAE and Kuwait, did the opposite. They led OPEC Plus in deep strategic production cuts. This was a monumental shift. It was no longer just an economic cartel. It was a geopolitical bloc flexing strategic autonomy. The message was clear. We are not your emergency reserve. Our oil policy will serve our interests, not yours. This move, perceived in Washington as an alliance with Moscow, transferred over $2 trillion in wealth from consuming nations in Europe and Asia to the treasuries of the Gulf in a single year. It also cemented a new axis, the Riyadh-Moscow Energy Alliance, where political rivals cooperate to keep prices high by managing global supply. Their control was demonstrated not through war, but through calibrated, market-friendly restraint. Second, the shadow network, how the Dark Fleet redrew the map. Sanctions on Russian oil were meant to be a financial kill shot. Instead, they created history's most profitable smuggling operation. The shadow traders executed a stunning logistical heist. They assembled a ghost armada of over 600 tankers older. Riskier vessels bought cheaply and insured through opaque channels. This fleet became a floating pipeline, rerouting the world's oil geography. Russian crude, once flowing west to Europe, now embarked on months-long voyages east to India and China. Indian refineries, running at full throttle, bought cheap Russian oil, refined it, and sold the diesel and jet fuel back to Europe at a premium. The key chokehold. shipping, insurance, and currency. Traders in Dubai set up new payment systems using UAE dirhams or Hong Kong dollars, bypassing the SWIFT banking ban. Greek shipping magnates, masters of the global tanker fleet, made fortunes charging war risk premiums. The control shifted from those who owned the oil to those who owned the means of escape. The sanctions didn't stop the flow. They simply made the journey longer, riskier, and infinitely more lucrative for the middlemen. Russia's oil kept funding its war, just with a larger cut going to the traders of chaos. Third, the financial vortex. How Wall Street amplified the pain. This is where the shock was converted into pure speculative energy. As physical traders navigated dark fleets, financial engineers in Manhattan and Chicago performed alchemy on the panic. The geopolitical risk premium became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Hedge funds, using algorithmic models that track news headlines and ship movements, placed massive bets on rising prices, pushing them even higher. Volatility itself became the asset. Exchange-traded funds, ETFs tied to oil price swings, saw volumes explode. Banks like JP Morgan and Citigroup made record profits not from moving oil, but from selling complex derivatives to airlines, trucking companies, and nations desperate to lock in any price, however high. Their reports moved markets.
And its rise
Their vocabulary of
has created
supercontango and
stark, new
backwardation
hierarchies.
became the language of crisis.
The new winners,
They controlled the
the
narrative of
neutral
scarcity,
refiner,
and in doing
India,
so,
now the world's
profited from
de
the fear
facto
that
oil
scarcity
laundering
created.
hub,
Out of this
buying
controlled
cheap
chaos,
Russian
a new
crude,
energy
selling
cartel
refined
has emerged.
products to Europe
And
at
it's
a
not
markup,
OPEC. It's
and
a hybrid,
asserting
fluid
itself
coalition.
as an
The
indispensable
producer
swing
alliance,
power.
Riyadh and Moscow,
The
controls the
sanctions-proof
physical
trader,
tax.
private
launderers,
commodity houses
traders,
in the
and
Gulf
shippers
and
in Dubai,
Asia,
Geneva,
operating
Athens,
in legal grey
controls the
zones,
escape
now
routes.
rival the
The
old
amplifiers,
Swiss giants
banks,
in
and funds
influence.
in New York, London, controls the price multiplier. This cartel doesn't have a
As the
headquarters or
world's
a name.
top producer,
It operates on
high
convergent
prices
interests,
funneled
and its
billions
rise has
into
created
its shale
stark,
oil
new
fields.
hierarchies. The new winners, the neutral refiner, India. Now the world's de facto oil laundering hub. Buying cheap Russian crude, selling refined products to Europe at a markup, and asserting itself as an indispensable swing power. The sanctions proof. Trader, private commodity houses in the Gulf and Asia, operating in legal gray zones, now rival the old Swiss giants in influence. The war-profiteering state, the United States itself. As the world's top producer, high prices funneled billions into its shale oil fields. It became a top
Priced
LNG
out
exporter
of
to
the
Europe
LNG
at record
market
prices,
by wealthy
achieving
Europeans
long-sought energy
unable to
dominance
afford
not through
fertilizer.
diplomacy, but through the misfortune of its allies. The new losers, the industrialized ally, Germany and Western Europe. Their energy-intensive industry was gutted, facing permanent deindustrialization as factories moved to where energy was cheaper. The true Quatos, developing nations in Africa and South Asia, priced out of the LNG market by wealthy Europeans, unable to afford fertilizer, and slammed by a soaring US dollar. They faced bankruptcy and famine without a single vote in the conflict. The global consumer, you, every person worldwide paid the war tax at the pump, the grocery store, and the electricity bill tax levied by an invisible consortium. So, who really controls global oil during wars?
They compete.
The answer
They
is a
distrust
system
each other.
with no
but
single
in
master.
crisis, their
Control is a
interests
racket.
align perfectly
It's a
to
seamless,
prolong
cynical
the state of
collaboration between the
profitable
state that
emergency.
withholds the oil, the trader who launders it, and the banker who bets on its scarcity. They compete, they distrust each other, but in crisis,
We have built
their
a
interests
global
align
system
perfectly to
where the
prolong
fuel
the
that
state of
runs our
profitable emergency.
civilization is
final,
controlled by a mechanism
haunting
that
question this leaves
thrives
us
on
with
conflict.
is not about control, but about collateral. We have built a global system where the fuel that runs our civilization is controlled by a mechanism that thrives on conflict. The incentives for peace are dwarfed by the fortunes made in managed chaos.
You
So, when you
repaying
see
a
the price
toll to
jump
the
at the
invisible
pump after a news
consortium
alert,
that has mastered
understand
the
you're
art
not
of
just paying
turning
for
war
gas.
into a quarterly
You're paying a
dividend.
toll to the invisible
What do you
consortium
think?
that has mastered the art
Is
of
this
turning war into a
unstable,
quarterly dividend.
profit-driven system
What do you
the
think?
inevitable
Is
price
this
of a
unstable,
globalized
profit-driven
world?
system
Or
the
have we
inevitable price of a
surrendered our
globalized
economic
world?
security
Or have we
to a
surrendered our
shadowy
economic
committee
security
that
to a
wins
shadowy committee
only
that
when the
wins
world
only when the world
loses?
loses?
Let me
Let me
know
know
in the comments.
If this changed how you see the news,
news,
share
hit
this
like,
critical
share
breakdown,
this
and
critical
subscribe.
breakdown, and subscribe.